Hi everyone, John Pokerchip Friedberg here with another episode of Stacking Chips, your strategy source for the 2007 World Series of Poker, the Bellagio Cup, which starts real soon, and the dozens of other events going on here in lovely Las Vegas. So yesterday I got knocked out of the $1,500 no-limit event and my second sick beat after having a good finish in the pot limit event. So 2 events ago that I played in was a 2,000 no-limit. I trap a guy for all his chips on the flop. I have aces. He's got 9s. The flop is like 7-8-3. Of course, the river's a 9. To his credit, though, he did turn a straight draw. There was a 6 on the turn that gave him an open and a straight draw as well, but that was a pretty gross beat. Then yesterday, I took a disgusting beat. It was a 3-way all-in pot. I had raised under the gun to 700 on 1 and 200 blinds with ace-king of diamonds. I had about, 4,000 chips or so, maybe 5,000 chips. I raised to 700. Another guy, short stack in middle position, goes all in for about 2,100. And then the button re-raises to like 4,500. And I wasn't too concerned about the button. I thought he was just making us, trying to isolate me out of the pot so he could get heads up with the short stack. So anyway, I felt that I had the best hand. I push all my chips in. And of course the button calls because he only had to call a couple hundred more. The short stack raiser had pair of 7s, 2 black 7s. The button had an offsuit ace queen. I had the ace king of diamonds. Perfect flop for me. It comes king, like 8-3 or something with 1 diamond. So I'm way in the lead. Turn 10 of diamonds. Now I'm way in the lead because I have the nut flush draw and top pair. But an offsuit jack falls on the river to give the ace queen a straight and to knock me out of the tournament. The only good thing about that is that it happened probably like 3 hours, maybe 4 hours into the tournament, so I still had the rest of the day to enjoy myself and try to shake this cold off as opposed to bubbling and spending 12 hours in a tournament, which happened to my friend Devin, and that was a shame yesterday. Anyway, so I'm taking today off. Today's a ladies event and the $5,000 limit event, but I'm going to take today off, lay out by the pool, get some sun, shake this cold, and hopefully I'll be 100% by tomorrow, which is a $2,500 no-limit Hold'em event, which I will be playing in. So I have a couple of email questions that I wanted to get to, and thank you guys for sending some in, and keep them coming. We're at stackingchips@cardplayer.com. The first question is from Russ in Michigan. Russ says, John, congratulations on the 3rd place finish, especially after starting the final table near the back of the pack. I've been playing poker for a little more than 3 years and have done fairly well playing online over the last year. I was wondering if you had any tips for when to move up in limits. I'm currently playing at 25 and 50 cent no-limit cash games, and what tournaments I can sprinkle in and stay within my bankroll. Thanks for your time and good luck in the rest of the tournaments. Well, first of all, Russ, I have a standard rule in both tournaments and cash games as far as bankroll management goes. The rule of thumb that I like to pursue for myself and also for others is that with cash games, you should really have about 50 times the buy-in for whatever game you plan on playing. So for example, if you're looking to play maybe $1 and $2 no limit and you want to buy in for $100, I would say you should probably have about a $5,000 bankroll to play 1-2 Hold'em. And of course that depends on a lot of factors. Now, I'm assuming that you have no other income here, or that you don't want to mix your living expenses with your poker expenses. Hopefully they're not expenses, hopefully they're income. However, if you're talking about just having money exclusively for poker, I always suggest to players that for cash games they have 50 times the buy-in to whatever game they want to play. So if they're playing in a 5-10 game, and they're buying in for $1,000 at a time, they should have a $50K bankroll. If they're playing in that same 5-10 game, but they're only buying in for $500 at a time, then a $25,000 bankroll is fine, in my opinion. So I don't know what the bankroll is, what the buy-in is for 25-50 cent no limit game, but I'm guessing it's probably $25 or so, maybe $50, probably $50. And if that's the case, then you should probably have a bankroll that's 50 times that, or $2,500 if I'm doing the math right. Again, that's all depends on personal preference and your level of risk tolerance. I tend to take a more conservative approach, especially because poker is my primary source of income, and when you have alternative income, it's obviously different because you can you can bring in money from your paycheck or whatever. As for tournaments, I think it's a little different. I like to suggest to people that 2% of, well, basically for whatever tournament you're buying into, it shouldn't be more than 5% of your bankroll. So for whatever tournament you want to enter, you should have at least 20 buy-ins for that tournament. Now that's probably thin. That's probably more geared towards a profitable tournament player. So if you're not profitable, maybe you want to not risk so much in any one tournament. But as for myself, I'm definitely a profitable tournament player. When I keep my accounts online, I usually keep about, I usually play between $100 and $200 tournaments. I don't usually go less than that, and there's not usually too many tournaments of higher buy-ins than that. So I usually keep between $2,000 and $3,000 in my accounts at all times, and I rarely have to reload. So, every now and then I'll get down to $500-$600 in my account, but that's usually around the time when the sort of the variance factor goes away, and I have a score that gets me back above that number. So I usually cash out when I'm above $2,000 or $3,000 in any particular online account, and rarely over the last 3 years or 4 years have I needed to reload after starting at the $2,000 or $3,000 mark for $100 tournaments. So again, that depends on your level of skill in tournaments, but I would say for the most part, 20, maybe 30 buy-ins is appropriate. And so if you want to decide if you want to move up in limits, and of course you use that same number. So if you're playing 25, 50 cent no limit cash games and you've built your bankroll up to say $5,000, then maybe you want to try stepping up into 50 cent $1. So just follow the same formula to decide sort of where you should be. And thanks again for the question. The next question comes from Tim. And this is actually a very good question. It's something that we talked about, or that I talked about in the first episode of Stacking Chips, and it really has to do with bubble play. Hi, John. I have a no-limit sit-and-go question for you. I wanted to ask you about an interesting dynamic that I'm encountering more and more as I move up in stakes. It applies exclusively to bubble play. There will be 4 players left, with the top 3 getting paid. The chip leader to my left will have, say, 6,000 chips. I have 5,000 chips. And the 2 short stacks will have about 15 or so each, 1,500 each. Whenever I raise, the chip leader immediately pushes all in over the top of me for 6,000 chips every time. He knows if I call and lose that I will be the one going out in fourth, so he just jams every time I raise. I can't really figure out a way to counter this. Do I really want to call with my ace-jack or 7-7 or whatever I raised with? Even if I have ace-king and he has 9-3 offsuit, I'm not that far ahead. Should I really risk going out in fourth place? Instead of, anyway, you get the point. So that's a very good question, and a lot of amateur players are faced with the same problem, where the more experienced players bully them out of pots. So I have one simple solution for you, Tim. Instead of just raising to a standard amount like you normally would early in a tournament, you should really just push all in here. Just move all in for your 5,000 and put the same decision on your opponent that he keeps putting on you. So I can guarantee you that unless he wakes up to, say, jacks are better, or maybe even kings are better, depending on how good of a player this guy is, he's not going to call you at that point. So if you have pocket sevens and the bigger stack is behind you to act, let's say you're under the gun, he's on the button, and you're four-handed, don't just raise it 3 times a big blind or 4 times a big blind. Just move all in for 5,000. And he's going to fold his hand because he doesn't want to be in the situation that he keeps putting you in. And that is how you want to combat these players. That's how you want to play the bubbles. You don't want to give your opponents a chance to get you off of a hand ever in a bubble situation, in my opinion. And the situation that came up in the first episode of Stacking Chips was a friend of mine there was a limper in the pot. A friend of mine just raised on the button to 4 times the big blind amount, leaving himself with, I think he had about $20,000 of chips. He raised it to about 6,000 or something, leaving himself with 14K. And the limper shoved. My friend had ace-king. Limper shoved. My friend called with ace-king, and the limper ended up having 2 4s, which held up against the ace-king. So my belief is that if he would have just shoved on the button with the ace-king there, the 2 4s would have been faced with a much tougher decision, most likely would have folded, and he would have won the pot. Of course, a smaller pot, but you don't want to risk you want to alleviate as many risks as you can on the bubble, and this is the same situation. So again, instead of giving your opponent the chance to push you off the hand, you should just move all in and force him off the hand. And those are the two questions that I wanted to address today. Thanks again, guys, for sending in the questions, and keep them coming, again, to stackingchips@cardplayer.com. So in honor of today's ladies' event at the World Series of Poker, why not invite on one of the most attractive poker players, the professional poker player, the model, the video host at the World Series, ladies and gentlemen, Lacey Jones. Lacey, thanks for coming on the show today.
Thanks for having me.
So, as I mentioned, you're a model, you're a professional poker player, you're doing some video work at the World Series. Seems like you have a lot going on.
I do.
Tell us a little bit about your background, how you got involved in poker, and sort of, tell us about yourself.
Okay, well, I've been playing poker since I was a child, just playing cards in general. Ended up having a boyfriend in high school that played cards, and he was one of those jocks that, after the games, we'd all go play poker, and so I learned that, and then in college I actually used to hop around to the frets, and that's where I used to make all the side money. I was hired as a model a few years ago for ESPN tournament. I played well, bubbled in that, but actually everyone was talking about it. It was a rebuy tournament, never rebought once, and everyone else that was still in had, and it would have been interesting if it was a freeze-out, what would have happened. So got on with a different sponsor, and this is my third year at the World Series.
So you're doing some video work there. Mm-hmm. Are you also able to play in many of the events this year? Well,
today's my first event. I was going to play in a few others, but I decided to kind of help out this. There's so many final tables all at once every day, so it's been interesting, and I think it's been better for me because I've been seeing the other side and really preparing myself for these final tables and visualizing them, and I'm going to be playing in a few other ones, but I think this is really good to start with the ladies because I cashed last year in it, so going in strong. So
awesome.
Yeah.
So a lot of people have mixed opinions about playing versus women as opposed to playing versus men, and certainly women, I think, many times can use that. They can use the fact that they are a female to their advantage when playing against men, because a lot of men have this stubbornness about them where they either refuse to lose to a woman or they never give a woman credit for a good hand, and so they play very poorly against them. What's been your experience playing against men?
I think all of the above. You get different guys. Obviously at the table there's so many different people playing poker. You just have to figure out which one you have. There's the guys that don't want you at the table, so they try and bluff you out a lot, and you can trap those guys. There's the ones that will play really soft to you, so you can take advantage of that. And you kind of have those guys that are your protectors. At the main event last year, I had one guy that could have easily taken me out of the tournament, and he kind of felt sorry for me. And I had top pair, top kicker, and the nut flush draw, and he ended up having pocket fours, and he had a set on the flop, and he just played it really soft to me, and I actually was able to make it to day two because of him. He could have easily taken me out.
Yeah, I see a lot of that on the tables where a guy he wants to be the hero or something, and he'll turn over the nuts. He'll check the river and turn over the nuts. I didn't want to bet you, sweetie.
Right.
You're a nice girl. I want to keep your pretty face around here. Not me, guys. I don't do that.
Okay.
But that's funny. So what's it like playing against other women?
It's definitely harder. I think that you run into the women that don't want you at the table because they don't like women in general. I think just social issues and boundaries that have already been created, and that's what happens at the poker table. But then you have the other ones that just don't know how to play, and so those women, you can't make a play on a woman that doesn't know what a play is. So they'll call everything, and it's just interesting. So you have to figure out how to play against them, and you have to make sure that you can't bluff those ladies because they'll call you all the way down with pocket deuces. I swear to God it happened. And I was good with the three. Scary.
So you find it more difficult to play against women?
Yes.
Because would you say that's because in general the caliber of player is lower in the lady events?
No, not necessarily. It's actually you have really great women that play or really bad women that play, and you have to find out who they are early on. And I mean, some of them you think they're really good because they have a huge chip stack and you get moved to their table, and it's only because they made a donk move earlier on and sucked out on somebody. So it's interesting in that sense, but the women are harder to read, too. You don't know, because a lot of them think they are good, so you can't get a tell off them if they think they have the nuts. I mean, they don't know. So they act like they do, and you fold and you're the best hand, and it's interesting.
Yeah, it's always difficult, if not impossible, to get a read on an opponent who doesn't know where he or she stands in the hand, let alone, you trying to figure them out. So that's always really difficult. So what's your strategy going into today?
I'm actually not having a planned strategy. I'm now really aggressive thanks to a lot of people and a lot of help from a lot of friends on my game, and I'm just going to make sure that I'm going to catch the cards for sure. I'm thinking mental cards that I'm getting, and I'm already practicing raking in the pots, all that good stuff. So I'm just going to, I got that exercise going down all morning.
It's kind of like the breaststroke.
Yes,
so opposite
exactly.
the breaststroke.
So I'm just doing that, and I'm just going in positive. I know that this is my third year doing this for the World Series and the ladies event, and I know I'm going to have a lot more experience than a lot of the other women at the table, and I'm not, no fear. I'm not worried about it.
Right. So you mentioned to me a couple of days ago that you are mostly a tournament player, but that you're working right now on improving your cash game skills. Yeah. So tell us a little bit about your experience transitioning from tournament players into cash games.
Well, it's different. I just know that my style is definitely more towards tournament play. I'm never going to get away from tournament play. I'm very aggressive in nature, and I played volleyball. I've always been really competitive, and ended up that this is a perfect game for me because it's always something I have control over and I can get better at, and I can always learn how to do different strategies and compete against others, and it's just something that's very challenging but also rewarding for me. I love it. The cash games, you just have to, it's a different style, and I've been avoiding some of the places. Like, I don't play too much here at the Bellagio just because I had a bad experience about a couple years ago with a guy that was a pro, well-known pro, and just happened to make some comments that I really didn't appreciate. And so now I feel more comfortable at the Venetian and some other places where I like playing their normal tournaments, and I cashed in those a lot, and it's been fun. But I don't know, I think that when you play right now for the World Series, it's better to stick with the tournament, so I'm not playing any cash games right now.
So would you offer, is there any advice you would offer to players that are looking to improve their cash games? Maybe either, is it reading books? Is it working with friends that are experienced in the game? Any particular advice you'd like to give?
I think it's both, for sure. I've been reading a lot of books. I always read anyway. I'm kind of a nerd in that sense. But watching my friends, a lot of my friends have let me sit behind them and watch their hands that they play, and that's where I've learned a lot.
And speaking of being a nerd, you also mentioned to me that you're thinking about going to law school soon.
Oh, I know I'm going to law school soon. I've just been procrastinating a little bit and just having fun. I had a family member that I lost that was really close to me about 4 years ago, and it changed my life. And I decided that I'm just going to have fun right now, and I'm 28, in 2 years I'll be 30. Then I'll take my LSAT, and I'll buckle down a little bit. But I'll still always play poker. But right now I'm just having fun.
In the meantime, we'll see you playing more poker.
Probably
poker. More modeling.
More modeling and traveling a lot.
More TV work also?
Yes.
Yeah?
More TV work. You'll see me doing a lot more. I need to get a little bit more of the acting classes down, and you'll see me be, I guess, doing bigger things soon. I'm not supposed to say that. It's
all right. Well, we have to let you go so you can get over to Rio in time for the ladies' event. Okay. So, Lacey, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me.
And best of luck. I hope you win it. And we'll certainly be there watching if you do win it, and of course have you back on the show after the final table to tell us about your experience in the event.
Great.
So thanks again for coming on the show. That's it for today's episode of Stacking Chips. Make sure to tune in tomorrow and every day throughout the World Series for more strategy talk, discussion, interviews, and more right here on Card Player TV. And keep those emails coming to stackingchips@cardplayer.com. From John Poker Trip Friedberg
and Lacey Jones,
we're out of here. Good luck, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.